Urgent breaking news from the US that made the walls of the Kremlin tremble. An explosion in the Senate. Americans demanded a strike on Moscow. What they decided to send to the armed forces shocked everyone, but this is just the beginning. A new missile for Ukraine. Trump has gone off the rails, and on top of that, Belgorod was engulfed in flames. Russia is plunging into a blackout. The retaliation for Kyiv was intense. A barrage of missiles rained down on the Russians' heads. NATO and Ukraine are acting in perfect sync. F-16 air defense, HIMARS missiles, and a reload for the armed forces. All this and more coming up. Watch until the end. Today, Renata Aslanova and the latest events are greeting Ukraine. A sensation has occurred in the US Senate. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham delivered a strong blow to the Kremlin. Putin needs to be pressured even harder. The senator called on President Donald Trump to initiate the process of transferring to Ukraine Tomahawk missiles capable of turning the tide of the war.
After yesterday's massive attack, I am calling on President Trump to begin the process of supplying Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, which will change the situation militarily. In the coming days and weeks, we must increase the pressure on Putin. Any negotiations that are perceived as an excessive reward for aggression will lead to disasters around the world.
Graham stated firmly that the current US pressure on Putin to bring him to the negotiating table and stop the massive strikes on Ukraine is not working. He emphasized that Trump's idea to strike at the buyers of Putin's oil, which feeds the Kremlin's war machine, must be implemented urgently and strictly by the US and Europe. According to Graham, Trump has already dealt a powerful blow to Putin's economy by starting to go after oil companies and refineries.
Tariffs for India. A good example of how things can change. India is now buying significantly less Russian oil, and if other major buyers follow its example, it will help put an end to this bloody carnage.
It was previously reported that behind the scenes, a decision is being prepared that could turn the rules of the game upside down right in the midst of the negotiation process.
Washington is pushing for the provision of Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine to create a strategic lever in the negotiations.
Former advisor to the Commander-in-Chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Dan Rice, held talks with U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth regarding this initiative. This concerns the use of missiles with a range of up to 4,000 kilometers, which could radically change the balance of power. Russia's deep rear becomes vulnerable, and the Kremlin finds itself under serious pressure, forced to seek concessions. In
November 2023, Ukraine launched 8 ACMS missiles for the first time and destroyed 24 Russian attack helicopters. Ka-52s. Moscow immediately withdrew all its helicopters from Crimea and revised its combat plans. A few Tomahawk missiles will do the same. The range is so great that Russia simply cannot protect all of its critical assets.
But that's not all. Something even more shocking has come to light. The American response to Ukraine's need for long-range weapons is becoming a reality. No, not just with Tomahawks alone. The United States secretly conducted combat tests of the Rusty Dagger cruise missile for Ukraine, developed under the ERAM program. This was reported by Defense Express. The new cruise missile, which is being developed specifically for the Ukrainian armed forces, has successfully passed the stage of testing with a live warhead. This weapon promises to change the rules of the game thanks to its 400-kilometer range and record low cost. The test took place at an airbase range in the southern United States. The base's press service noted that the testing made it possible to gather critically important data for the further development of a cost-effective and long-range strike system, which is being created under an accelerated program. Meanwhile, missiles are already flying toward the Russians. A hellish retribution for the strikes on Kyiv. Belgorod is under rocket fire. The city and its surroundings have been plunged into darkness. No electricity, no water. Locals are also reporting communication outages. The region is shaking after a powerful attack.
She says that everything else has been plunged into complete darkness. Dubovoy, accordingly, is also completely and entirely in darkness. And so the south was cut off as well.
The governor of Belgorod region, Gladkov, in a panic, declared a catastrophe. He said that the armed forces of Ukraine had delivered a devastating massive strike on Belgorod and its surroundings. The region's power system has been reduced to ruins. 9 municipalities were immediately plunged into darkness. Putin's defenses have been torn to shreds. Energetic paralysis has engulfed Stary Oskol. The lights went out right during the explosions. The local emergency headquarters is already preparing the population for the worst. If this hell continues, people will be herded into heating centers and water will be delivered to them. Explosive results. Fedorov mobilized support for Kyiv. Ukraine and NATO hit the enemy in sync. Air defense versus 16 HIMARS. But that's not all. A reboot has begun in the armed forces. After hearing this, people in Moscow grabbed their heads. Watch for all the details.
Ukraine's new Minister of Defense, Mikhailo Fedorov, has begun reforming the Ukrainian army by leaps and bounds, which has sent Putin's loyalists into a frenzy.
Indeed, he is a competent organizer of drone production. And now he has set the goal of raising the losses of the Russian Federation's armed forces to 50,000 per month, thanks to drones. And in general, I believe this is a serious enemy, a serious challenge.
The first and main statement from the new minister is to increase Russian soldier casualties to an irreversible 50,000.
To make the cost of war for Russia so high that it simply cannot bear it. To stop the enemy by force? Stop the enemy by force?
He presented the general tactical and strategic plan of the armed forces of Ukraine. The plan contains no ambiguous arrows on the map, no wishful thinking. There is none of that verbose general's talk. The new minister's plan fit into...
There are exactly 5 specific words and 1 significant number. The strategic plan is formulated as follows. We aim to eliminate 50,000 Russian orcs during every single month. It's remarkably concise and highly constructive, and it is grounded in reality.
War correspondents are whining that such a figure is quite realistic, since Putin and his military leadership refuse to give up on the idea of meat grinder assaults.
Specifically, for example, in terms of losses, this desired target figure, unfortunately, can quite possibly be achieved. Not long ago, Madhya reported that they calculated the number of destroyed targets, specifically personnel, confirmed at over 30,000. In other words, essentially, that is exactly what we receive in the total number of troops in a single month.
The second innovation from Fedorov finally disabled the Russians' smuggled Starlinks and completely shut down their communications and drone control systems.
We need Starlink to work there because certain technologies are used that are also important for us. They are connected to drones. There is another way to make sure that our Starlinks work, while the Starlinks that appear there by other means do not work. And so we are working with SpaceX to resolve this issue.
Elon Musk himself supported the idea and said he would help in any way he could.
It seems that the steps we have taken to prevent the unauthorized use of Starlink by Russia have borne fruit. Let us know if additional measures are needed.
We've come up with an even simpler method. As far as I understand, Starlink satellites will soon only serve those terminals in Ukraine that are on the so-called whitelist. That is, units of the armed forces of Ukraine and ordinary Ukrainians who have these very Starlinks must add their terminals to the whitelist, register them there. And then they can keep using the internet just like before. But the Russians won't be able to do this. They won't be able to add their smuggled terminals to this whitelist. And that's why their terminals will soon all turn into pumpkins. Since
Fedorov was appointed Minister of Defense, not even a month has passed. And the Russians are already in a real panic over the first new changes. What will happen next is anyone's guess. But it will be very interesting to watch.
Europe has urgently closed ranks in support of Ukraine. Assistance is ramping up right now. Military, political, and financial. Sweden is preparing a devastating support package. Cruise missiles may be brought into play. How Europe is unitedly helping Ukraine to pressure Russia's railways. Watch.
Deliveries of air defense systems, F-16S and HIMARS missiles became the main topics during negotiations between the new defense minister Mikhailo Fedorov and NATO representatives. The Ukrainian official thanked the bloc's representatives for their ongoing military support and for supplying air defense ammunition under the Pearl Initiative.
The key priority right now is protecting the skies, and for this, Ukraine is transforming its short-range air defense system. The parties agreed on the main priorities for cooperation: strengthening air defense, development Patriot F-16S and HIMARS, as well as joint work on technological superiority. Ukraine is sharing unique combat experience, real battlefield data, and technological solutions with its partners. These are already in use.
A separate track is the coordination of Ramstein together with Germany and the United Kingdom to speed up decision-making and the delivery of necessary aid to Ukraine. The meeting in this format will take place as soon as February 12th at NATO headquarters. Sweden is preparing one of the largest military aid packages for Ukraine. Swedish Defense Minister Paul Jonsson stated that very soon his country may also provide Ukraine with Gripen fighter jets and long-range Meteor missiles.
The Swedish side is preparing a large-scale aid package, which will include air defense systems and radars produced by Saab, as well as investments in the Ukrainian defense industry, additional electronic warfare systems and drones, including the Deep Strike.
Ukraine has long been interested in Swedish fighter jets and the missiles for them. Back in 2023, Sweden gave permission for Ukrainian pilots to be trained on these fighter jets. After that, the Swedish parliament supported the delivery of aircraft to Ukraine. So the delivery of Gripen jets and long-range Meteor missiles is only a matter of time. Ukraine is considering the option of launching joint production in the defense tech sector, with defense industry facilities located on Swedish territory. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz stated that Ukraine can continue to count on comprehensive assistance from Germany. The shelling of Ukraine's energy infrastructure is a war crime committed by Russia, and Germany will try to purchase the maximum number of air defense missiles to protect Ukraine.
We will try to procure air defense systems all over the world, and Ukraine will receive them. A significant portion of the purchases is carried out through Germany and the European consortium. We see that Ukraine is now itself capable of creating long-range missile defense systems that surpass some of those we in Europe have offered and discussed in previous years.
In addition to ongoing military assistance, partners are also supporting Ukraine in the negotiation track. For example, the head of European diplomacy, Kaja Kallas, stated that over the past 100 years, Russia has attacked at least 19 countries, and some of them 3 or 4 times. At the same time, not a single one of these countries has ever attacked Russia. The key in negotiations is to maintain constant pressure on the Russian Federation and force the aggressor to make concessions.
We need concessions from Russia, restrictions on their military budget, army, or nuclear weapons, as well as accountability for the crimes they have committed.
In the Czech Republic, $6 million were raised for Ukraine in just 5 days. The money will be used to purchase generators, heaters, and batteries. On the weekend,
We ordered 2 diesel generators which are being delivered by trucks. Each cost 8 million crowns. They will be given to 2 small medical facilities.
to help the freezing residents of Kyiv, a Polish charity fundraiser collected over $2 million during the campaign amid the energy crisis. More than 58,000 people made donations. Military and energy assistance from European partners as well as diplomatic pressure on the Russian Federation make it possible to hope not only for getting through this difficult winter, but also for the Kremlin to accept a peace plan on the terms of the civilized world and Ukraine in particular.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
A sensation. While diplomats draft endless peace plans, Ukraine chooses the language that Russia understands without a translator. The language of force. The country is stepping on the gas, ramping up its own military-industrial complex to maximum capacity. Factories are running, development is accelerating, and weapons have become argument number one. Details in the report. Mass production of strike and reconnaissance drones, naval unmanned vehicles, artillery and missiles. All this has turned Ukraine from an arms importer into a full-fledged producer of modern weaponry.
Ukraine is launching serial production of its first ballistic missile.
Ukraine is developing a universal missile system based on the principle of EMAS.
Ukraine has launched serial production of Octopus interceptor drones.
A Ukrainian company has developed ground-based robotic systems equipped with electronic warfare modules.
Ukraine's defense industry has made a leap that just a few years ago seemed impossible.
Ever since the year 2022, Ukraine has consistently demonstrated such a high level of remarkable creativity and ingenuity that absolutely none of our partner countries could have ever anticipated from us in the past. We have shown just how inventive and creative we can be in achieving dominance at sea, even without our own navy or fleet, by ensuring full control of the Black Sea through the use of maritime drones.
Today, long-range capability has become a priority, and drones of various types are the foundation of the defense industry. This is exactly what Ukraine is betting on.
110 billion for drones. Ukraine has tripled its production.
It is precisely through drones that Ukraine compensates for the shortage of missiles and achieves parity with Russia in the air.
As a matter of fact, for now, drones are currently the primary and dominant means of striking. even in the context of long-range capabilities, that is to say, long-range drones and long-distance drones, they remain dominant in the field. And comparing them to missile systems or any other means of attack is not entirely fair or accurate at this point. Once we reach the stage of mass and serial production of missile weaponry, of course, the situation will undergo a significant change. And
this is a key change in the war. Russia no longer has a technological monopoly, not even in the air. And again, we shouldn't forget about the sea, which Ukraine can control even without a navy. And it's all thanks to maritime unmanned systems.
The use of Magura has cost the Russian fleet over $500 million in losses, according to Ukrainian intelligence estimates. Together with other platforms, particularly Sea Baby, this has systematically complicated the enemy's presence and basing in the Black Sea. On December 20th, 2025, Ukraine and Portugal signed a joint statement on partnership in the production of maritime drones. And
this is another significant change. Today, partners are not just transferring weapons, but are entering into joint production.
Ukraine and Portugal have agreed on joint production of maritime drones.
The largest defense company in the Czech Republic is launching ammunition production in Ukraine.
Ukraine and Britain will launch the production of interceptor drones to combat Shaheds.
But let's get back to long-range capabilities. Drones are not the only argument in this matter. A separate area is the missile program. We're talking, of course, about the well-known Neptune, which after modernization transformed from an anti-ship system that sank the cruiser Moskva into a long-range missile for striking ground targets.
I think this was one of those presentations we've been waiting for so long. Long-range Neptune. This is, after all, a more high-tech missile which is used with precision, almost surgically.
But Ukraine's missile arsenal is much broader, and as the president of Ukraine said, as of December 2025, it is being actively used.
To be frank, Ukraine is already using cruise missiles today. Neptunes, long-range Neptunes, Polyanitsia, Flamingo, as well as Sapsan. To be honest, we've started.
This is Ukraine's long arm. There is little talk about such systems, but their presence changes the enemy's calculations. Less publicity, more results. There are also results in the production of mortar and artillery munitions. But it's not just about ammunition.
Today, Ukraine produces more 2 S-22 Bodina self-propelled artillery systems per year than the French company Nexter, which manufactures the Caesar self-propelled howitzer. These are among the first wheeled self-propelled artillery systems that we received from our... And in order to bring everything to a complete and total halt, you must ensure that every single moving part of the operation is fully addressed and properly shut down before you can finally say that you have reached the end of the process.
Or even slow down. The Ukrainian defense industry has no intention. That's why Ukraine, together with its partners, will continue to develop defense projects.
Ukraine and Poland will jointly modernize the MiG-29, which will be provided by the Polish side.
A range of drones, air defense, and aviation. Ukraine is deepening its defense cooperation with the Netherlands.
France has announced the deepening of cooperation with Ukraine in the field of drones.
In addition, Ukraine's Minister of Defense Mikhailo Fedorov is announcing new developments. For example, a Ukrainian counterpart to reconnaissance drones like the DJI Mavic and the Russian Molniya. And of course, as part of strengthening its defense capabilities, the Ministry of Defense continues to digitize the front and is implementing a new drone management system. These are not isolated experiments, but systematic work by the defense industry. During the full-scale war, the Ukrainian military-industrial complex has learned the most important thing: to respond quickly to challenges on the battlefield.
Every year, Ukraine surprises with new inventions and innovations. And in a sense, it is changing the rules of war. Not only the war unfolding in Ukraine, but also the rules of warfare in general, in the global sense.
The Ukrainian defense industry is no longer just surviving, it is developing. The defense sector has become systematic, technological, and large-scale. This means one thing: Ukraine enters any negotiations not empty-handed, but with weapons it is capable of producing itself. And what do you think about the latest events? Share your doubts in the comments, like the video, and stay up to date with the main news. There's more to come.